Trauma attracts negative energy, and sometimes that energy can manifest into something physical, something terrifying. However, the converse is true as well. If we can learn how to laugh in the face of darkness, we might just be able to find the light. Today's guest has maintained a sense of humor throughout all of his horrifying experiences, even though they are the stuff that scary movies are made from. Let's talk to Christian today on Homespun Haints. Hello, Hainted Loves. Welcome to Homespun Haints. I'm Becky.
And I'm Diana.
And we are thrilled today on the show to have Christian Bradley West. He is known as the Country Clairvoyant on Instagram. He is hilarious astrologer. He's got some ghost stories. He's brilliant. He's hilarious. You're going to love, love, love this interview. But before we bring Christian on here in a few minutes, we always have to start with a story. We always have to start with a story.
We must.
It wouldn't be the same without a story.
I can hear the purring already.
The cat's not in here. Are you sure?
It's a ghost. It's a ghost cat.
Oh, it's a ghost cat. So y'all can't see us right now. Or can you? Are you astral projecting?
In your third flesh window.
But Diana and I both have purple hair right now.
We kind of do, Becky.
Yeah,
it's our thing. You dye your hair and I go, that's cute. And I do it too.
You copycat.
I am. I just want to be like Becky. Whatever you do, Becky.
Yeah, I do not see you marrying a man anytime soon.
It's basically just hair trends.
Okay, hair trends. Got it.
Yeah.
You also won't wear lipstick.
No.
I love my lipstick.
There's a lot of things I don't wear. I don't wear a strapped-on penis. I don't wear high heels. I really don't like wigs.
Those are very different.
Are they? They're just strapped-on bumbling appendages that make life harder. That's how lipstick works.
Okay, if you put it that way.
I'm even like, I can't wait to take these headphones off.
All right. So for those of you that were wondering, Diana does not walk around with a strap on. You see someone in Walmart with a strap-on on, not Diana.
I don't even know how people do walk around.
With a strap-on on?
With anything.
Okay. Anyway, so speaking of...
Weenies in general.
Speaking of hair, this is actually a very, very adorable story that has nothing to do with strap-ons. It's a sweet family story.
I'm sorry.
I don't know if I should tell it now. It's almost
Hang on.
seems like...
I gotta get into sweet and family mode.
Jeez, take off the strap-on.
All right, Princess Becky, tell me all about it. What is going on with your family story?
So anyway, I was taking my son. I had my son in the car, and we were on our way to pick up my daughter because we had a doctor's appointment. I just picked him up from the school bus, and so we were behind the school bus in my neighborhood. And the bus stopped. 2 girls got out. One of them fell. She fell down the steps.
Oh,
and then she was on the ground holding her leg like she couldn't get up. And her friend was there like running to try and get her dad. And somebody behind me is like honking because I'm in the way and he wants to drive around this whole mess. So I pulled over. I got out of the car. I went over. I was like, hey, are you okay? What's your dad's name? Maybe I know him. What's your mom's name? Maybe I know her. Like, I'm trying to figure out, don't know this kid's parents. Never heard of them before. So I called some of my friends in the neighborhood. Hey, do you know these people? Nobody knew them. I'm like, oh no. And the bus driver's just sitting there like, I can't go anywhere. And I'm like, this sucks. Anyway, I had a doctor's appointment I had to get to. And the bus driver's like, just go on. We'll deal with it. So I went on. I came back on my way back after picking up my daughter. Girl's still there. There's somebody from our district who's come and is staying with her till they could get a hold of a parent to come. I mean, it's like 30 minutes later. She's still there on the ground with ice pack on her leg. District person is there watching her. The friend is still there. I pull up. Hey, are you doing okay? How you feeling? Dad's on the way. Okay, good. Glad you got a hold of him. Just checking in kind of thing. This whole time, I'm like, so thankful that nobody's like, who is this weirdo stranger talking to this kid? Because of course that's going through my mind.
So
I have a kid
your kid
with
rides
me.
her bus, so it makes more sense that you'd be protective of a child who fell off of your kid's bus rather than just some random child.
That's true, but I mean, I look kind of weird, right? I got bright purple hair.
Was this in the yellow Crocs and the torn
No.
skirt?
No, it wasn't
No.
that bad.
Oh.
And it wasn't like when I had to drop my kid off at school the other day. So yesterday I was wearing bright green polyester bell bottoms and a Pink Floyd shirt and purple tennies. I was walking with a friend of mine, and she has all these really cool workout clothes and sweatpants and yoga pants and leggings and all that. And I'm like, I got these polyester pants. Let's do this. They're cozy. So we're walking, and we just happen to pass by this bus stop. And the girls have just gotten off the bus. And as we're walking by, I hear, there's the purple-haired lady. There's the purple-haired lady. And I look, it's the same girl. And she comes running over to me. And she's like, hey. And I was like, oh, how's your foot doing? She's like, oh, it's so much better. Thank you. And she's like, look, I dyed my hair purple too. And I'm like, was it because I stopped? I don't know, but she's like showing me her purple hair, and she's like, I love your hair. I got purple hair too now. I got, I'm like, do not copy my outfit because I am wearing green polyester pants. But it was so cute, and her friends like waving, and they're like, bye, purple-haired lady.
I told you, you are a role model. Me and Hurt Foot Off the Bus girl, we're both trying to be more like Becky.
I was like, that's such a great honor. I mean, all I did was just
sweet.
roll down the window and make sure she was okay, but
Oh,
it was really cool.
I could just imagine the conversation she had. Mom, Dad, you are wrong. Nice, mature, intelligent people have purple hair too.
Well, I do remember, like, when I got out of the car, like, when she first fell off the bus, and I went to her, I was like, are you okay? And she just kind of looked up at me like, I love your hair.
She thought you were an angel. The sun haloed around your beautiful purple visage. And you had just this angelic purple glow all around you, and choir of angels was singing, most likely. Yeah, you were inspiring.
So that's my family story. Family-friendly story that has absolutely nothing to do with strap-ons and Walmart.
Well, then why'd you bring it on? Bring it up. Why'd you...
What?
Why did you bring it up?
You brought up strap-ons.
You started talking about things I didn't wear.
I don't know that you don't wear a strap-on.
No, you just know that I don't wear lipstick. Or earrings.
Well, now I know a lot. My goodness.
Or high heels. There are a lot of gendered things I don't wear.
Okay. I don't wear strap-ons either. But I don't need to.
Okay. Well, thank you. It's good that we've got this out of the closet. I appreciate
Yeah,
you.
everybody knows
Your honesty
now.
about this.
Well, let's talk about our Patreon real quick because we have a wonderful Patreon. We really want everybody to join it because we have these shows without ads
Without the family-friendly aspect.
and content too spicy even for this platform.
Too spicy.
And we do private tarot readings and dream interpretations and give away swag to our higher tier patrons. Check it out. Patreon.com/homespunhaints. And if you would prefer getting your episodes visually instead of auditorily, check out our YouTube channel. We are putting out some, not all, but some episodes in video format on our YouTube channel, and that's youtube.com/homespunhaints. So we will see you there. Well, without further ado, let's bring on the hilarious, the haunted, the effervescent Christian. Today on the show, we are so thrilled to bring on Christian Bradley West. You may know him from his Instagram handle, The Country Clairvoyant. He is very active on Instagram. He has hilarious posts. I think we share at least one of them once a week, making fun of the commoditization of astrology, I think, in many ways.
Spirituality in general.
Right, yes. That's
Yeah,
a good way
whatever
of
that
putting it.
is. Yeah.
But you're also very serious about astrology. You do intuitive astrology readings, and your website where people can find you and book readings is thecountryclairvoyant.com.
Yes. Yes.
So thank you so much for being on the show, Christian.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and how you got into it.
Yeah, so I was just always interested in the weird as a kid. I was called weird a lot, just strange. I guess mediumship has kind of followed me, whatever, because we're going to get into ghosts and things like that. So I think that's been a thing. It's not something I publicize or say, hey, there have been spirits or whatever around. So that's always been a thing too since I was very young. And there was a dear family friend who worked in a metaphysical shop. So I learned a lot from her over the years, and really as a teenager became ever more interested and got really sick and ended up in herb shops around where I lived. I was diagnosed with Crohn's and ended up connecting with psychics and mediums and astrologers in those spaces as well. And I'm also very artistic. I'm an artist and designer as well. So, and I'm queer. So there were all these things that kind of marginalized me. And luckily I was blessed with a sense of humor throughout it all. Because otherwise I think I might have offed myself a few times without being able to laugh at all the insanity.
You mentioned your very first house that you lived in until you were 4, and there were ghosts there. Would you like to start there?
Yeah. So I call him the man in the closet. There was a banging in the closet. And there's trauma. My father was violent, and my parents' room was next to mine, so the closet butted up against there, and they would give me excuses and say, oh, it's your sister. She's banging on the wall, because her room butted up to another wall. And so maybe there were nights where it was my parents fighting. But I'll tell you this. There was one night that I woke up, and I heard the banging in the closet and this very angry human. And I was like, well, fuck. In little kid speak, I guess. Whatever that was. I don't think I had the word for it, but I certainly had the feeling for it. Uh-huh. And I grabbed my panda, which is probably about as big as me. It was this stuffed animal my mom had actually made me. And so I had to scurry past the closet and went into the hallway. And my parents' room was open, and it was dark, and there was nothing. There were no noises. My parents were asleep. It was the middle of the night. So I was like, well, it's not them either. And then I walked into my sister's room and I peek in and I was like, that bitch is asleep. Again, different vocabulary, but I'm pretty sure same feeling. And I look in and I'm like, yeah, it's not her. And I look back at my room and the banging is still happening and the angry voices, the man is still cussing and doing his thing in the room. And I'm like, yeah, this is not my sister. And so I slept on the threshold. They had already gotten mad at me for going into my sister's room and crawling in the crib with her, by the way. So I just slept there at the threshold of her room that night. So yeah, there was a very angry man in my room, I remember. And yes, it might have been instigated. The research, I guess you call it research of the ghost stories, you probably know, is that if violent events have taken place in the house, it can stir up the energy. And I'm pretty sure the energy got stirred up. And that's going to play into when I was a teenager too, where we lived. Fast forward to that, we lived on a property that was the Powhatan Nation's property just outside Richmond, Virginia. And one summer we were taken care of by the family down the street in the cul-de-sac. And I remember I asked to go home to get something. And so I run home and get it. And walking back down, I see a silhouette of a girl in the window downstairs. And she's just standing there. I was like, oh, they must have moved down to the living room and they're not upstairs. So I don't see her move the whole time. I'm walking down to the cul-de-sac. And then I get into the house and I look around and she's not there once I open the door. And then I walk into the living room and I call out my sister and the girls' names and no one's there. And then I heard them giggling and they're upstairs in their room. And I was like, were you guys just downstairs? And they said, no, we've been here the whole time. So that happened, but the scarier things that happened in that house, the first time I played with a Ouija board was in that house. It was in 7th grade, and it was part of games in the teacher's space. And so we went into the closet and we did it. And that night, I'm home. By the way, this coincided with the death of my guidance counselor had killed herself that week.
Oh, no.
Wow. Wow.
A car in the garage. That's how she did it. So that was oddly traumatic. And so we decided to contact her in the Ouija board. That was smart. I'm pretty sure we didn't contact her. But we contacted someone who was like a male. I don't know who, but probably something that was a little darker than we wanted it to be, because I'm upstairs that night. My mom was in school at the time. She'd gone back to college. And my sister and I both heard my mom come home carrying groceries. And she called us to come downstairs to help her with the groceries. So my sister and I went downstairs to help her with the groceries. And sure enough, there was no one there. And this happened 3 times. It happened 3 times to the point where my sister started like screaming uncontrollably and crying. And my dad was like, "What?" And by the 3rd time, my father actually had heard it, and we had gone downstairs. And that's when my sister kind of started freaking out. And I was more like, this is kind of cool, but also scary. I don't know like how I feel about this right now. And then I came clean and I was like, well, we played with the Ouija board today. And my sister was like, you're going to hell. Oh my God, you let a demon in the house. And I don't know, she was 2 years younger than me. So I have no idea how she like figured that out, right? Or where it's just going. And so chances are we may have let a demon in the house. But here's the weird thing. So my dad like called me and he's like, just go back upstairs, finish your homework, do your thing. And so we do, and sure enough, my mom came home with groceries, and the whole scenario played out. None of us knew she was going to the grocery store, and she didn't even know. She said, well, I decided to stop, and she got paper bags, so you heard the rustling of the paper and all the things. My sister and I heard whispers and voices, which happened a lot in the house, too. My mom would wake up at like 5 in the morning to get ready for work, and many, many nights she heard voices, and many nights my parents would wake up with the front door wide open. The scariest thing that happened, my room was all the way at the end of the hall above the garage. And the door opened straight into it, and my bed sat up against the wall because I always had to sleep with my bed against the wall. The dog was sleeping on my floor, Sophie. So I was laying there, and I heard this thing running down the hall. I sat up. I actually sat up, and my dog jumped up. It was so weird. It happened like in a movie. It was like happened all at once. I sat up, dog jumped up. Dog started barking at whatever was running down the hall, and you could hear it. And then whatever it was, I don't know if it passed through me or what it did, but I got pushed up against the wall and then lifted.
Lifted?
I was lifted. And then I fell back down into my bed. And yeah, that was a holy shit moment. And I was...
No kidding.
And my dog turned at that time, like watched whatever the figure of the thing was do it. So she, at that point in time, was looking at me, barking, staring at me. And I was like, what the fuck? And I remember getting out of bed and getting on the floor and just holding the dog. And then looking down the hall and wondering, did it wake anyone up? But it was weird. No one got up. My parents didn't get up. Nothing happened. One time my parents did get up is my sister, we were having a sleepover in her room. We had a walk-up attic, which was freaky. We were in the attic room. I was sleeping next to her. And all I remember is both of us, it was the weirdest thing. Both of us kind of, again, simultaneously sat up at the same time. She kind of jumped to her feet very, I think, instinctively in her bed. So she was still crouched down. She wasn't standing. And she looked at me and just started screaming her head off.
Uh-oh.
And then we both instinctively ran into my parents' room. My dad at that point in time already had his gun out. And we run to my father and like put our arms around him. And he was like, "What, what's going on? What's going on?" And I'm like, "I don't know. Stacy's just screaming." And Stacy's like, "I don't know. I saw something." And so apparently she had seen the figure of the thing and it had freaked her out. So that night we did wake up my parents. So if we segue into a spirituality kind of weird thing is I would have reoccurring dreams where the house was on fire and we had to get out and the house was falling down around us. I sleptwalk a lot, so I woke my parents up a lot. So I remember I would run into my parents' room saying, "We have to get out of here. We have to get out of here." And they were like, "Why?" And it was weird. I would grab things along the way. So I remember I grabbed my father's chapstick off of his bedside table one night and the lamp. And like, I was just like, we have to get out. I know, right? And so why did sleepwalking me choose that? And I was like, the house.
That chapstick was definitely going to melt in that fire.
Yeah, we needed to get the chapstick. And interestingly enough, I do have my emotional support chapstick even today. So fast forward to, I was working with a massage therapist because I had gotten injured in 2 accidents back to back when I was 24. And so fast forward to maybe my late 20s, early 30s, and I was living in a different place in Georgia. And I was working with the massage therapist, and I could tell he was doing energy work or Reiki or whatever. And so I asked him, and he said, "Yeah, I'm doing that." Well, one of our sessions, I'm laying there, and there was this moment where I was drawn to this past life. I call it that now. At the time, I didn't know what was happening. I was in this space. I was a young girl, I think Polish, around the age of 12, in the Blitzkrieg. And I had been told by a psychic years ago that I had a past life where I was Jewish, and the house was falling down around us. It was on fire, and I was screaming, "We have to get out." And I end up hiding under the kitchen table, but the whole place caves in on me. Well, I don't tell the massage therapist this, and I know this sounds insane and woo and weird, but this totally happened, because even I go, God, did that really happen? And come out of it, and he said to me, he said, did you just feel that? Did that just happen? And I said, yes. And he goes, I think that was a past life. He said, you were Polish, you were 12, you're a little girl, the house is falling down around you. So he described everything before I could get to it. And I was like, that is insane. That is insane.
Whoa.
I can't even remember the rest of the session. So then I remember the reoccurring dreams of the house on fire and running to get out and wanting to get out and get my parents awake. And for some reason not being able to do it because I guess they were already dead or something. Then I talked to a psychic friend and I was telling her what was happening. And she ended up, again, oddly enough, describing the scenario before I could finish it. So it came through very strongly for her as well. And I was like, this is just insane. Like, how is this even a thing? So that's connected to that time period of being in that house. And the last thing I would say that happened in that house that was really strange, of course, I would see things still like shadow figures, things like that. The really scary thing that happened, other than being pushed against the wall, at this point in time, I had this like rainforest thing because I was listening to music a lot. So I had this rainforest thing going on. And then all of a sudden, like, it amplified. And I couldn't move, like kind of sleep paralysis demon things. And I'm laying there and something was crawling on me. And this was before I had fallen asleep, by the way. So I had just turned off the light, gotten in bed. I was laying there, attempting to fall asleep. And all I could see was this like dark shadow figure crawling on me with like this smile, but like a sinister smile. I heard a voice say, get up, turn on the light, get up, turn on the light, turn on the light. And I was like, I can't move. This thing is crawling on me. And then I felt something literally like reach up through, because I was laying on my right side, almost like reach up through the bed, push me up. And then I turned on the light and there was a weird loud noise that sounded like the rain from the rainforest, whatever thing. But again, it was like augmented. And then everything stopped. It was like the noise stopped, everything stopped when I turned on the light. And I was like, that was really uncomfortable.
Whoa.
And I'll say this, I might have accidentally invited things in without meaning to, because again, dealing with trauma, feeling very isolated, not feeling like I had a lot of friends, and dealing with my sexuality and not really being able to deal with it in a very open way or understanding how to or having the vocabulary. So I had what I would call like my demon lover. Because I like read Anne Rice at this point and had a very active imagination. So in retrospect, I think I may have accidentally called something in without meaning to.
Ooh.
So you think it was more of something that existed outside and you pulled it in as opposed to you creating a tulpa?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's an interesting idea. I have been told for years, I've worked, and even more recently, as in like maybe 4 years ago, I was working with a shaman. He's like, there's this dark entity, not necessarily like demon or anything like that, but just something that's like feeding off of your energy. And I was like, yeah, I know there's something around. And I would get this very like dread, the dark cloud, the thing. So I don't know if it was, connected to the trauma, if I attracted it because of that, because I think those of us that have been traumatized can create these. And I have a story about that, actually. So I was at the Center for Spiritual Light, where Eugene Davis started it in North Georgia and Lakemont, in beautiful mountains of the Blue Ridge. And I went there for a retreat. So I'm in my room. While you were there, it was 2 weeks. Some people were longer, but you lived in houses with other people. And so the first night, not everyone had arrived yet, and I was there the first night, and I think there was only one other person in the house. But I felt something, and I saw it. And sometimes in mediumship, you see things in your mind's eye, so to speak. It's not always like right in front of you, although you can. I feel a presence out in the hallway. My door is shut, and so I open it. No one's there. Dark. It's night. I stay up later than everybody else anyway, usually in my mind. I saw the giant. He was really big and kind of pale, and semi-bioluminescent, to describe it. It felt a little, suddenly as I tuned into the energy, it felt more sinister. It literally said, I'm here for your stuff. And I was in a dark space at that time in my life. I would 2 months later decide that I wanted to kill myself. I had 40 midlife crisis things. It was a very difficult time. So this thing was like, here, I'm here to take your stuff. I'm here to take your grief. I'm here to do it. And it didn't feel right. Because I don't think we want to give our stuff away. I think my thing is we want to transform it. We want to put it in the fire of consciousness, whatever you want to call it. It's our stuff. So what I realized was this being showing up as the spiritual teacher in the guise of it was an amalgamation of everybody's shit that had been left on the property.
Oh.
It was just everybody's junk. There's a Japanese term for this, by the way. I think it's in Spirited Away. There's like this phantom that shows up, and I can't remember the name of what this is, but they're kind of like these souls, this amalgamation of souls that, or people's junk. And I think they roam the earth because I've encountered them before, and I had countered it before, and I didn't know what it was. It looked very much like a manticore, and it showed up in that house up there, and it was like, I'm here for your stuff. And I was like, no. And so it didn't feel like the right thing to do. It was like, I'm here to process through my stuff. I'm not here to leave it here. I'm not here. This isn't a junkyard. I don't want to do this. And the property was beautiful, and there wasn't any necessarily negative energy on it. But this thing seemed to roam around it. And I told it, I said, no, leave, go away. I've learned if you don't want to deal with these things, you have to be very direct. As I told it, go away, you don't get my stuff, leave. It got really angry, and I saw it turn into a pile of mice, kind of like Dracula in Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula. I was like, so it was just turned into all these mice, and it scurried away. Okay, y'all. Whoa. Here is the wild thing. The rest of the people show up. The rest of the people show up for the retreat. There were 4 more people that were living in the house. The whole time, they kept complaining about hearing mice in the house. I shit you not.
Oh.
And I was like, oh my God. They never saw a mouse, but they said, we hear mice. We hear mice. And I never did, by the way. Because I had told it to leave me alone. I was like, no, I'm not here to trauma dump. I'm here to work through whatever I'm here to work through. There's a lot of things that have gone on in my life that are considered paranormal. A few weeks ago, probably back actually in January, I felt the darkness, like that kind of dark cloud, kind of one of those entity things showed up. And I was like, oh, no, you need to go. And I lit a candle and I said, go. And that night I had nightmares and the weirdest dreams ever. And woke up the next morning and whatever that was gone. But that night I felt it. I'm just tuned into it now. I think there's a lot that goes on in our world that we just can't explain. And I am so curious and open to the mysteries of it because there's just too many things that have happened in my life. And like I said, with eyewitnesses, with people that were present, that were family members, friends, people that were part of the experience. But let me tell you, if you are seeing signs and symbols, whether it's an animal, whether you're hearing little nudges in your brain or seeing something or whatever, like follow it. When information comes, like follow it because it will bring so much magic.
I like that. You were talking about your incubus tulpa experience where you had the demonic feeling crawling on you and then another hand lifted you up so that you were kind of able to get out of that situation.
Yeah.
Which of those entities, the lifting hand or the crawling demon, was the one you felt like you manifested?
The crawling demon one is the one that I felt like I manifested. And fast forward maybe a year or so later, my friend that worked in the metaphysical shop, the family friend, came down and she said, you have what I would call is Archangel Michael or Michael energy protecting you. You have a lot of protection around you. And so then I thought about that moment and thought, well, maybe, because I had dreams. I just remember one dream that still is remarkably vivid of this beautiful light being with piercing blue eyes that came to me at a really, really difficult time, probably before I came out as a teenager. And this feeling from it, really the sensation, the after effects of it stuck with me. I felt really safe. and whatever it was.
The moment when you were little and you felt yourself get lifted off the bed.
Yeah.
First of all, the lifting, was that like a sensation of zero gravity, like you could float off the bed, or did you feel like hands or force against your body?
It felt like something was forced against me and lifted me and pushed me up against the wall. And then like I slid down the wall. And what was odd about it is it did feel aggressive in some way. I mean, enough to make my dog head. But yeah, it was lift off the bed, zero gravity, onto the wall, and then sliding down the wall. I mean, it was terrifying. Also being in the space of shock where I could not process the fear. Like it was just like what just happened? Like,
but it felt harmful, like it was trying to come for
it did not feel like it was gentle in any way, shape, or form. It felt angry. I think it was stirred up. My parents were very angry.
Well, I love every story you told, Christian, and everything just flowed so beautifully. I really feel you with the whole, like, well, you know, since I'm stuck in queer spaces, I'm stuck in weird spaces. Like, yes, absolutely. That just goes hand in hand somehow.
Christian, thank you so much for being here today. This has been so much fun to talk to you. You have so many insightful stories, not just about ghosts, but also about living and spirituality, everything. And I absolutely love your Instagram, which is, again, at The Country Clairvoyant. Everybody's listening. Go follow it if you aren't already. I just love what you do. I think your approach is so fresh. Your website is thecountryclairvoyant.com. Your Instagram is The Country Clairvoyant. Your Twitter is Christian B. West. And people can find you all of those places.
You got it. You want a session with me? Come find me. We'll hang out.
Thank you so much for your time. Everybody listening, Hainted Loves, this has been Christian Bradley West on Homespun Haints. And please check out our show notes at homespunhaints.com, where we will have links to all of Christian's handles and where you can find him on the web.
Listeners, what did you think of that? Have you had similar experiences? Do you know where your emotional support chapstick is? If not, you're about to have a spooky day.
Homespun Haints is hosted by Becky Kielimnik and Diana Doty, and produced by Homespun Haints Media LLC. Editing and music by Becky Kielimnik. Show notes by Diana Doty. If you have a ghost story and you'd like to be considered as a guest for this podcast, please visit our website at homespunhaints.com/submit.